Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of just reading absolutely the dumbest medical takes I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this entire thing, but I'm actually really enjoying it. And the channel, like some people seem to enjoy it also, so I'm just going to keep going with it because I like to do it. And let's be real here, on Twitter, you get a bunch of people that they don't know what they're talking about. And look, I'm human too, so I don't know 100%. There's probably doctors that would completely wear me out on stuff because I was more of a scientist myself. So let's just go with the fact that these people clearly know nothing about what they're talking about. They're probably, I don't know, school isn't necessarily a measurement of intellect, so who knows if they went to school or not, but it does help. And you can kind of know what you're talking about. So let's start with Walter M. Chestnut. I wish Luke lived longer. I would tell him today. I now understand AIDS. AIDS is not an infection. AIDS is a phenotype. AIDS is a state of translational and expression dysregulation. Okay, so again, devil's advocate. He's partially right? But the problem is when you're partially right, you think you're entirely right, and then you get indignant about it. The concept of science and understanding things is understanding that you can be wrong. So, AIDS is a state of translational and expression dysregulation. So when you are infected with the HIV virus, it enters your cell. It actually attacks CD4 and CD8 T cells, and it's looking for a specific co-receptor, which, interestingly enough, during the bubonic plague, believe it or not, there was a group of people who had a mutation in the delta 32 allele. So what this did was it made a specific co-receptor not present on the surface as well. And in some cases, it's actually below the cellular membrane. So those people with the delta 32 allele mutation that survived Yersinia pestis actually have a resistance to HIV. Now, HIV is highly mutagenic, so it can change, basically. If you actually mess up taking art therapy, your medications and everything, it can mutate within just like a week. So not really great, but it gets into your cells, and then basically at that point, your body then forces the production of HIV because it's reading the information that comes in from the HIV virus. So it thinks it's itself, boom, creates more HIV, that goes out, continues the infection. CD4 and CD8 T cells drop significantly, allowing for opportunistic infections to then come in. So it's not necessarily the HIV that kills you so much as it is really the other infections that are opportunistic that get in there and kill you. Now, there's a whole bunch of issues associated with HIV, so take that with a grain of salt. But it is absolutely an infection. Anything that enters your body and then starts hijacking the cellular processes of cells, it's an infection. It's not translational expression. Just your body doesn't create HIV by accident just because it's like expressing incorrectly. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so on to the next one. I actually forgot. This one's just going to be a PSA for you, actually. Putting Percy in the playpen just with yourself reduces the size of your crotch. All right. It's messed up. Not only does it reduce dick size, it also reduces sexual performance, leads to erectile dysfunction, causes low self-esteem, most importantly, is addictive, which is living in a mental prison, not advisable at all. Actually, this one isn't even a bad medical take. This one's correct. So there is a system in place in your brain, and it's a reward system. Now, normally this reward system helps you survive. You do something good, you get a reward out of it. In fact, actually, that's why we're social to a degree, because we get rewards for being social from our own brain. Now, us being humans, we've learned how to hijack that, right? Alcohol, substances you can take, even cheese. Cheese helps the reward system in the human brain. But the problem is when you have something on hand that is basically the fundamental portion of life, reproduction for humans, you get the biggest reward out of that. Or naturally the biggest reward. So when you can see it whenever you want and there's not really an issue, that actually does screw with your brain. It's been linked to lower gray matter in people. So we do know some of the effects. It burns out your reward system. It can cause anxiety. You do get addicted to it like you get addicted to anything else because it's affecting the reward center, which is the dopamine receptors. So all of this stuff, actually, this isn't a bad medical take. This is real. I don't know why they're trying to dunk on this dude. There's the whole thing about, oh, well, if you relieve yourself enough times a month, it can prevent prostate cancer. That's actually based on a faulty study that they did. It's not real. Now, there is, to a degree, we'll do an XYZ. And like I said, relieving yourself does help, sure. But the actual amount that they suggested was not helpful. And on top of that, that is just by itself masturbation, right? Now, the thing about adding in the extra stuff is that kind of goes hand in hand in our society right now with the same thing. And I'm about to be done talking about this, by the way. But the fact is that, yeah, this stuff does screw you up. If you can stay away from it, definitely stay away from it. Childbirth was bad because doctors wouldn't push the uterus back up into the woman's body because embarrassment. So many women either bled out or died of sepsis. So, again, they're always like half right, you know? First off, if your uterus comes out of your body during childbirth, that's not good. It's not supposed to come out. That requires like major surgery to fix that. Sepsis and septic shock is your body's response to any bacteria or viruses that get into your bloodstream. It's an over-exaggerated response. So as you might guess, pushing a baby out of your body can rip some stuff, especially back in the day. And what's also, can happen, things happen when women give birth. And this, is what it is. A lot of bacteria exchange. So it's not so much they were dying of embarrassment. You're literally dying of an infection or you're bleeding out because birth in itself is highly dangerous. So again, half right, the sepsis portion. Uterus coming out of your body requires way more like surgical intervention. So sad. Forcing our children to do what? To inhale their own carbohydrates all day long and damage their lungs forever. So, I think we all know what she's trying to say. Carbon dioxide. You hope it was just autocorrect and they were just doing it on their phone. But I gotta tell you, being on Twitter and seeing the absolute state that is this planet right now, I'm not so sure. It could be something like they really think it could be carbohydrates. This looks like a very severe muscle cramps, if at all, especially for a teen. Very unusual. I've had muscle cramps before in tennis and never crawled on the floor. I can't pronounce that. It was probably exhaustion and the effects from poisonous mRNA injection combined. So sad. All right, so there are actual things that we're learning about vaccines and all that. Feel free to look those up. But I gotta tell you, I used to play football, I used to wrestle, I played rugby, I did all of that stuff. I remember I went to eat with my dad and I had a cramp like this, just out of nowhere. It happens. If you deplete the salt levels inside of the muscle and then overwork the muscle, yeah, cramps like this happen all the time. But I feel like everybody it's like they want it to be the vaccine. And I just don't get it. Why would you want this to happen? Like, why would you want people to be experiencing anything bad? I don't know. And I feel like to a degree they think that they're getting information out there, but it's like, again, it's so much opinionated. This guy has no idea, but he just says it anyways. So it's like, well, okay. Not exactly the pro gamer move that you probably should be doing. If every doctor quit today, it would suck. People would die. Bad news. The world would go on. If every trucker quit, that would be the end of civilization. White-collar jerks ride the backs of the working class. Glad to see power being reclaimed. Honk, honk. Obviously, everybody knows about the political situation with this. I'm more saying it for the doctor's perspective. Somebody who says this, and it's a blue check mark, of course. Somebody who says this essentially is in ignorance of what doctors actually do, which is a good thing because you shouldn't have to be around doctors all the time in normal day-to-day life. But the fact of the matter is that we have infections, we have diseases going around, outbreaking constantly. We have people who get in traumatic situations. You have births, you have car wrecks, you have all of these things that require doctor intervention. And the fact of the matter is we wouldn't have near as many people walking around right now as we would or would not if doctors weren't around. So I don't know. I think doctors are fairly important, and also the supply chain is important as well. Otherwise, who gets the doctors their equipment? It's just, again, just because one thing exists doesn't mean it's more important or less important than the other thing. I don't know. Okay, so my wife found she was pregnant at 2 weeks because a boy's DNA will stand out separate from a girl. If women have so much reckless sex and they don't know they are pregnant for 10 weeks, maybe get tested more often, it's not worth the mental trauma. Okay, what? If a woman have so much reckless sex, they don't get to know they're pregnant for 10 weeks, maybe get tested more often. I have no idea what this has to do with a boy's DNA standing out from a girl's DNA because a pregnancy test is based on hormones. Again, what does this even mean? Why? Like, this is just random nonsense being said for the sake of nonsense. Like, yeah, technically speaking, you have X chromosomes, XY chromosomes, so DNA is slightly different, and I mean very slightly different. But I don't really get the whole pregnant for 10 weeks, get tested anyways. I don't think this guy knows how pregnancy tests work. Let's create I just had my HIV test profile photo frame. HIV was made scary by Fauci, which, if you didn't know, Fauci was involved in actually trying to figure out what HIV was. It was later discovered that HIV was not a sexually transmitted disease, but a body reaction to excessive drug use, particularly amyl nitrate, better known as poppers. So if anyone tests positive for this, finds a Narutopath, who understands terrain model and water fasting, and you will fix yourself. It's not all doom and gloom. Your body is a healing organism and will, under the right conditions. Those conditions creating by diet. Anyone wanting to learn more can start by reading up on Antoine Béchamp and his work. This will start you in a path to health and freedom you have never known before. Okay, so let's go ahead and call it what it is. Diet and exercise, yeah, very important for your health overall. It cannot be understated. In fact, there was somebody I was talking to about, actually, in one of these medical tweets, he was saying that diet and exercise meant nothing for type 2 diabetes because he had been exercising for 2 weeks and it hadn't fixed his type 2 diabetes. There's no saying, you can't outwork a bad diet. You just can't. Doesn't matter how many times you go to the gym. If you're going home and eating McDonald's every day, you're not going to outwork it. So diet and exercise, absolutely. That said, I don't think it's going to outclass HIV. Now, if you do have HIV, you need to be on medications to restrict its actual reproduction, and then you can get to undetectable, at which point we've learned that you can't, it's very, 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 very low chance of you even passing it along to somebody. So getting to undetectable is the goal. In fact, some studies are saying that you can't even pass it to people if you're undetectable. And diet and exercise along with that is only going to help your body. So imagine it's sort of like a fire, right? HIV being the fire itself, you're putting wood in and burning, that's kind of, unfortunately, your CD4, CD8 T cells. So as you don't fuel the fire, the wood gets less and less, but the fire grows, and until eventually everything burns out, and then that would be basically AIDS once your immune system's completely burned out. But keeping the fire small and adding in more wood, it's like the fire's still there, but it's being contained. I guess that's somewhat of a good analogy. It's not perfect, but hey, So diet and exercise kind of help you stay healthy even in the presence of a disease, especially a long-term disease like this, which hopefully we'll get rid of at some point in the near future. Probably not get rid of it, but wouldn't it be nice? Cancer is never and was never part of aging. Look up the Hunza people where cancer didn't exist. They lived to 140 to 145, still have kids at 65. They're in the middle of a mountain with zero pharma. It's all about diet. No, it's not all about diet, actually. Now, it's not all about diet. Now, we know carcinogens actually can influence the amount of cancer you get, obviously, or like your chance, not cancer you get, but chances of getting cancer. But what it really comes down to is we know that there are mechanisms within the body that do DNA repair. Some people naturally have better genetic repair. It's just a fact of life. Some people, they burn out at like 60. And cancer is always a part of aging. If you get old enough and those DNA repair mechanisms make enough mistakes, cancer does arise. In fact, anybody who dies of old age, especially back in the day, and there didn't seem to be a cause, it was probably because of cancer. Now, obviously, heart attacks exist, strokes, all that good stuff. Not really great, but all that stuff. But cancer does exist because as your DNA becomes more damaged, I mean, I'm in a bright room right now, right? That means the sun's out. I walk outside, instant damage to my skin cells because of UV radiation. You have things called thymine dimers. So if you have like thymine, guanine, thymine, the thymines will actually connect and it'll screw up that entire sequence in the genetic coding. So that causes problems, as you might imagine. And as the body goes to, if that thymine dimer still exists there, as the body goes to attempt to basically break those apart, or if it doesn't even break those apart and it goes to replicate, it'll have no idea what was there. So it'll just kind of guess, which is not good. So cancer definitely becomes a part of aging, which is terrible. Your tweet will not age well. This guy, this is clearly just based on the profile picture alone. This has got to be some kind of joke, but your tweet will not age well. Life expectancy for the vaccinated is 5 years, sad to say. And he bases that on absolutely nothing. Now, again, there are people who are scared of mRNA vaccines. It's just, it is what it is, unfortunately to say. But I like just the wild speculation, which again is based on nothing. I mean, has he been 5 years in the future? Does he know anything about vaccines and how they work? Probably not. So I don't know. I've been seeing this a lot lately, and it's just, you really got to question, do these people know what they're talking about? And no, they don't. They have probably no scientific background. They listen to the guy down in the corner with a tinfoil hat next to Burger King. And hey, you know what? I'm not saying any media is any better because it's basically the same crap in a different wrapper. But it's just like, bro, you don't know. You don't know how long. And you don't know what the long-term effects are either. Now, studies have been done. In fact, mRNA vaccines have been studied and basically replicated and made since about, I think it was 1996. So the fact is, these have been worked on for over a quarter of a century at this point. So it's not like they just created them last year. Just so you guys know. Ain't no way they cured HIV and didn't cure Magic Johnson first. Where do you think they got the serum from? It's not a serum. It only takes an alkaline diet and dedication to cure diseases. So, oh my God. Okay, again with the diet. I already went on this, but yeah, diet's helpful. But there's other things that are helpful as well. Medications, for instance. And Magic Johnson probably isn't cured. Like, probably. And I'll go on to why I say probably here in a second, but Magic Johnson isn't cured. He's probably just that undetectable and his body has some natural resistance that we don't know of. It could even be something as simple, I don't know if he's been tested to see if he has the Delta 32 allele or not. So it could just be he has more resistance to HIV naturally. That does exist. I mean, that's the whole point of our species having like a, genetic diversity, I suppose you could say. It's so we just don't get taken out by one disease. And some people end up getting a specific set of genetic sequences that help them in situations like this. Again, I said this in the last episode. I catch the flu, I don't even know I'm infected with the flu. It just is what it is. But we're gonna move on past that one. The internet is free. No disease or virus can live in a highly oxygenized environment. I think she's talking about basically like bacteria lives in highly oxygenized environments anyways. Viruses can't do like most viruses. Some do very well, but most can't just exist outside in the sun, in direct sunlight for very long periods of time. In fact, you even take HIV, I think it's within like 30 seconds, the virus itself is inactivated by being outside the body. So they need a body to survive. That's how viruses work. Oxygenized environment, I mean, if I remember correctly, oxygen can, like pure oxygen can damage, sort of like how if you breathe in 100% oxygen all the time, which sounds great, but it's actually not. It can damage your lungs. So it can damage cells, but that's not in our atmosphere. I do not believe it's enough to damage most diseases. If the shots were given away for free because they're life-saving, why isn't insulin free? Chemotherapy, EpiPens. Virus versus lifestyle choices for the majority of the time. Not a hard concept to grab. Okay. There is something called type 1 diabetes. And type 1 diabetes basically means that your pancreas is being attacked in an autoimmune way. Either your body just has the autoimmune disease up front where the pancreas is attacked, or the pancreas are infected by something, like a virus or not bacteria, but definitely by a virus. Then the body will sometimes attack the pancreas anyways, and even after the virus is cleared, continue doing so. So that's not really their choice. Chemotherapy, cancers. If you eat nothing but McDonald's and Taco Bell every single day, day in, day out, and you get cancer, it kind of becomes a question of, were you going to get it before, or is it because of that choice? And I don't think that there's enough data to prove right at this point. I mean, obviously we know eating like crap, not exercising, all that can affect your cancer rate. So look at Lance Armstrong. Dude was professional biker, like biking, healthy, super just cutting edge of health. Got cancer. I mean, that happens all the time. I watch My 600 Pound Life. Friggin' love that show. These people who are 600 pounds and have been for like 20 years, their body's hanging on, and they still don't have cancers. But then you have triathletes who get cancer. So it's not necessarily a lifestyle choice. Also, EpiPens? Okay, so here we're about to launch into the whole thing about parasites and EpiPens. Okay, so as we are beginning to figure out, which is potentially a little alarming, in a first world country, allergic reactions are on the rise. And we're starting to think it's because we're living in too clean of an environment. As soon as you get like anything that's a parasite, you get rid of it immediately because it's a first world country. Not to mention we don't have that many parasites here anyways. So what we're finding is parasites might actually be calming the immune system to a degree and then allowing us to survive coming into contact with things that other people might be allergic to, because your body is in a calmer state, right? Which that's gonna be the interesting thing when we go to try to go to another planet. What's gonna happen then? Are we just gonna become fully allergic to like everything? Will we be able to come back to Earth, or will it be like breathing a foreign planet? Because I guess it will be foreign, but like all of the flora and fauna there, you'll be like a Quarian in Mass Effect. You'll have to live in your suit. So we need to figure out a way to actually get the benefits of parasites without the actual parasite. Now, Blue Dry here, most of that isn't a lifestyle choice. So it is a hard concept to grasp. A lot of this just happens. So I believe that, I don't know, there was some dude who bought, I remember when they jacked up the insulin price to like $750 or something like. It was ridiculous. Anyways, it's kind of right though. A lot of children TV today has an unhealthy amount of vibrant colors and rapid pacing, and it's terrible for our brains. This man's never seen a flower in his life. That's all I can say. But anyhow, apart from that, I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope this was interesting to you. Again, I'm trying to, I don't know if you guys noticed, I have better lighting. Looking at the thing now, it's not really necessarily the truth, but it just, maybe I should probably figure out how to like do this at like, I don't know, evening when it's not so bright behind me, because that's probably the issue. Anyhow, thank you for watching. Let me know what you guys thought. If you enjoyed, leaving a like would be great, and subscribing if you want more of these. This is a great step that I want to post. I'm gonna try to figure out what else to do, because this is fun for me. I enjoy this. It's a break from Roanoke Tales, and it's a break from Roanoke Gaming, where I can just talk about how stupid this crap is. Anyways, thanks guys. Hope you all have a good one. Deuces!